Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the spaceship UES Horizon, watching the stars through the large window. 3 years had passed since they left Earth, and now they were close to their new home. The planet below them looked beautiful, with blue oceans and green land masses. They called it New Terra. "Sir, the colony ships are ready to land," said Lisa Wong, his chief engineer. She was a smart woman who had helped design many of the systems on their ship. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panels as she checked everything one more time. Jake nodded and smiled. This was the moment they had all worked for. Humanity was finally reaching for the stars. Behind them, 12,000 colonists waited in sleep pods, ready to start new lives on this distant world. "Danny, send word back to Earth," Jake told his communications officer. Danny Sullivan was young but very good at his job. "Tell them, we made it safely." "Yes, sir," Danny replied. "The message will take 4 years to reach home, but they will be happy to hear from us." The landing went perfectly. Within 6 months, New Terra Colony was growing fast. They built homes, farms, and factories. The colonists woke up from their long sleep and started their new lives. Alex Brooks, the Marine commander, kept everyone safe while they worked. Everything seemed perfect until the day the aliens came. Jake was having breakfast with Ambassador Claire Johnson when Danny's voice came over the speakers. His voice sounded scared. "Captain, you need to come to the bridge right now. We have visitors." Jake and Claire ran to the bridge. What they saw made them stop and stare. A huge spaceship hung in space above New Terra. It was 10 times bigger than their ship and looked like it was made of black metal. Strange lights moved along its surface. "How long has it been there?" Jake asked. "It just appeared 5 minutes ago," Danny said. "No warning, no sound, it was just suddenly there." More ships began to appear. Soon there were 20 of the giant vessels surrounding their small colony ship. Jake had never felt so small and helpless. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Claire asked. As Earth's first space ambassador, she had trained for this moment her whole life. "Yes," Danny said, pressing buttons on his control panel. "I'm getting signals now. Let me try to translate." The main screen flickered and then showed an alien. Jake stepped back in surprise. The creature had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouthful of sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was deep and angry. "Primitive humans," the alien said. "You have entered sacred space of the Zeltharian Confederacy. I am High Commander Vextar. You will leave immediately." Claire stepped forward. She had practiced this speech many times. "We are peaceful explorers from Earth. We come in friendship and hope we can learn from each other." The alien's 4 eyes all focused on her. "You speak of peace, but you steal our territory. This system belongs to us. It has been ours for 1,000 years." "We didn't know," Jake said, moving beside Claire. "Our people searched for many years and found no signs of life here. We can share this world with you." High Commander Vexistar made a sound like angry laughter. "Share? Humans think they can share with the masters of this galaxy? You are nothing. Insects. Dirt beneath our feet." The alien leaned closer to the screen. "You have one choice. Take your people and flee back to your birth world. Never return to this part of space again." Claire tried again. "Please let us talk about this. We can find a solution that works for everyone." "There is no talk," Vextar snapped. "There is only our command. You will obey or you will die." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. These aliens thought they could just order humans around like pets. "And if we refuse?" "Then we will burn your colony to ash," the commander said. "We will destroy your ships and hunt down every human in this system. Your bones will warn others not to challenge the Confederacy." The screen went black. The alien ships just sat there in space, waiting. Jake turned to his crew. Everyone looked scared and confused. They had come so far and worked so hard to build their new home. Now these aliens wanted to take it all away. "What do we do, Captain?" Lisa asked. Jake looked out at New Terra again. Down on the planet, 12,000 people were living their lives. Children were playing in the new parks. Farmers were growing food in the rich soil. Scientists were making discoveries. It was everything humanity had dreamed of. "We're not leaving," Jake said quietly. Claire touched his arm. Jake, maybe we should think about this. Their ships are huge. They probably have weapons we can't imagine. I know, Jake replied. But this is our home now. These people gave up everything on Earth to come here. I won't just give up because some alien tells us to. Danny was listening to his equipment again. Captain, I'm picking up more signals. It sounds like they're talking to other ships. There might be more coming. Alex Brooks had been quiet until now. The Marine commander was a tough man who had fought in wars on Earth. Sir, if they attack, we can't stop them. Our ship has some weapons, but nothing like what they probably have. Jake knew Alex was right. The UES Horizon was built for exploration, not fighting. They had a few small guns and some missiles, but that was all. How long do you think they'll wait? Jake asked. The commander said we have one solar cycle, Claire said. That's probably 1 year by their calendar. Jake nodded. 1 year to decide the future of humanity in space. 1 year to figure out how to fight an enemy that seemed impossible to beat. But as he looked at his crew, Jake saw something that gave him hope. These were the same people who had traveled across the galaxy to build a new world. They were explorers, dreamers, and fighters. If anyone could find a way to survive this, it was them. Send a message to Earth, Jake ordered. Tell them what happened here, and Danny? Yes, sir. Also send word to all human ships and colonies. Tell them to prepare for war. 6 months had passed since the aliens gave their warning. Admiral Ryan Pierce stood on the bridge of his flagship UES Defiance, watching the empty space around Haven Prime Colony. He was nervous. Earth had sent him with 20 warships to protect the human colonies, but he knew it wouldn't be enough. Ryan was young for an admiral. Before the alien threat, he had been just a captain. But Earth needed experienced space officers fast, and Ryan had spent more time in deep space than most people. Now he commanded humanity's first real space fleet. Sir, we're getting reports from the outer sensors, said Lieutenant Kate Morris, his sensor operator. Something big is coming. Ryan felt his stomach drop. How big? The computers can't count them all, Kate said, her voice shaking. There are hundreds of ships. The first alien vessel appeared like a dark shadow against the stars. It was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Then another appeared, and another. Soon the space around Haven Prime was full of gray warships with strange lights moving across their hulls. My God, whispered Commander Bill Hayes, Ryan's second in command. There are so many of them. Ryan counted at least 200 alien ships. His 20 human vessels looked like toys floating next to giant metal whales. Each alien ship was 10 times the size of his biggest cruiser. All ships, this is Admiral Pierce, Ryan said into his radio. Hold your positions and wait for my orders. On the main screen, the familiar face of High Commander Vextar appeared. The alien looked the same as before, but now his 4 eyes seemed to glow with anger. Humans, Vextar said. Your time has ended. You chose to stay in our space. Now you will face the power of the Confederacy. We are prepared to defend our colonies, Ryan replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. The alien commander laughed. Defend? With those tiny ships? You cannot defend against the storm that comes. Without warning, the alien ships began to fire. Beams of bright energy shot across space toward the human fleet. Ryan watched in horror as the first beam hit the cruiser UES Boston. The ship's shields flashed once and then disappeared. The second beam cut the ship in half. All ships, evasive action, Ryan shouted, but it was too late. The alien weapons were too fast and too powerful. The human ships tried to dodge, but the energy beams followed them like living things. One by one, Ryan's fleet was being destroyed. Sir, we have to retreat, Bill shouted over the noise of alarms. Ryan knew he was right, but he couldn't leave the colony. What about the people on Haven Prime? Through the battle, they could see alien ships moving toward the planet. The huge vessels positioned themselves above the major cities and began to fire downward. The energy beams turned buildings to dust and melted the ground into glass. Captain Nina Rodriguez was on the planet's surface trying to get civilians to the evacuation ships. She ran through the burning streets of New Boston, helping families reach the spaceport. Move! Move! She shouted to a group of scared colonists. The ships are leaving in 5 minutes. Above them, The sky was full of fire. The alien weapons made no sound, but Nina could feel the heat from the energy beams. Every few seconds, another part of the city would simply disappear in a flash of light. "Captain, the east side of the city is gone," reported Sergeant Tim Walker over her radio. "We're losing people fast." Nina looked back at the evacuation ships. They were packed with refugees, but thousands more people were still running toward them. There wasn't enough time to save everyone. "Load as many as you can," she ordered. "We leave in 3 minutes whether we're ready or not." Back in space, Admiral Pierce watched his fleet die. Of his 20 ships, only 5 were still fighting. The UES Defiance was badly damaged, with fires burning on 3 decks. "Sir, we have to go now," Kate said. "The main engines are failing." Ryan looked at the planet one more time. He could see the bright flashes where the alien weapons were destroying the human cities. Millions of people were dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "All remaining ships retreat to Jump Point 7, he ordered. "We'll regroup at Titan Station." The surviving human ships turned and ran. Behind them, Haven Prime continued to burn. But something unexpected happened during the battle. Colonel Sam Taylor was commanding the defense of a small mining station called Titan's Edge. His station was too small for the big alien ships to notice at first, so he had time to watch the battle. Sam was an old soldier who had fought in many wars on Earth. He knew how to look for weaknesses in an enemy. As he watched the alien ships destroy the human fleet, he noticed something strange. "Sergeant Lopez," he called to his weapons officer. "Fire one of our railguns at that small alien ship." "Sir, our railguns are old technology. They won't do any damage." "Just do it," Sam ordered. The railgun fired a solid metal projectile at high speed. Sam expected it to bounce off the alien ship's shields harmlessly. Instead, something amazing happened. The metal slug went right through the alien's energy barrier and hit the ship's hull. "Did you see that?" Sam asked, excited. "Their shield stopped the energy weapons from our other ships, but they didn't stop our railgun." Sergeant Lopez looked at the readings on his screen. "You're right, sir. The projectile went through like the shields weren't even there." Sam felt hope for the first time since the battle started. The aliens had amazing technology, but it wasn't perfect. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving at high speed. "Send this information to Admiral Pierce right away," Sam ordered. "And fire everything we have at that alien ship." The small mining station began shooting all its railguns at the alien vessel. The enemy ship's shields couldn't stop the metal slugs. After a few minutes of constant fire, the alien ship's hull cracked open and it began to drift away, powerless. It was humanity's first victory against the Confederacy, but it came at a terrible cost. Haven Prime was destroyed. New Geneva Colony was attacked next and also turned to ash. Millions of humans were dead, but now they knew something important. The aliens could be hurt. Their technology had weaknesses, and if humans were smart and brave, they might find a way to fight back. Admiral Pierce received Sam's message just as his damaged fleet reached safety. As he read about the railgun success, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. General Katie Adams walked through the weapon testing facility on Mars. 6 months had passed since the disasters at Haven Prime and New Geneva. Earth's leaders had put her in charge of turning humanity into a fighting force that could survive against the aliens. Katie was known for getting things done. She had been a tank commander during the African Wars and later became Earth's best military engineer. Now she had the hardest job in human history: figure out how to fight an enemy, with technology hundreds of years ahead of theirs. "Show me what you've learned," she said to Dr. Ben Carter, the lead scientist on the alien technology project. Ben was excited as he led her to a table covered with pieces of broken alien equipment. "We've been studying the wreckage from Titan's Edge. The aliens use energy for everything: weapons, shields, engines, but their systems can't handle solid objects moving at certain speeds." "Explain it simply," Katie said. "Think of their shields like a wall that stops fire but lets rocks go through," Ben replied. "Our railguns shoot metal so fast that their shields just ignore it." Katie picked up a piece of alien metal. It was lighter than human steel but much stronger. "What about this? That's the really good news," said Maya Patel, the chief engineer. We can make copies of their hull material. It's not as good as the original, but it's much better than what we have now. Katie smiled for the first time in months. How long to build new ships with this technology? 8 months for the first prototype, Maya replied. But we have a problem. The aliens will attack again soon. We need something now. Katie nodded. She had been expecting this. What do you suggest? We modify existing ships, Maya said. Take out the old weapons and put in bigger railguns. Remove anything we don't need to make room for more armor and ammunition. Do it, Katie ordered. How many ships can we convert? 50, maybe 60 if we work fast. It wasn't many, but it was a start. Katie knew they needed every advantage they could get. 3 months later, Commander Luke Thompson stood on the bridge of the converted cruiser UES Hammer. The ship looked different now. Where it once had smooth lines and comfortable crew quarters, it now bristled with railgun turrets and armor plating. Luke was nervous. Today was the first real test of humanity's new weapons. Intelligence reports said a small alien fleet was heading toward Europa Station, one of Jupiter's mining colonies. Luke's squadron of 12 modified ships was waiting for them. Contacts on sensors, reported his sensor officer. 3 alien cruisers approaching fast. Luke studied the enemy ships on his screen. They were smaller than the huge vessels that had destroyed Haven Prime, but still twice the size of his ship. Under the old rules, this would be a hopeless fight. All ships, this is Hammer Leader, Luke said into his radio. Remember the plan. Stay close, keep moving, and aim for their engines. The alien ships spread out as they approached Europa Station. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met real resistance. Luke could almost see their surprise when his squadron appeared from behind Jupiter's moon. Fire when ready, Luke ordered. The human ships opened fire together. Dozens of railgun projectiles streaked through space at incredible speed. The aliens tried to activate their shields, but the metal slugs passed right through the energy barriers and slammed into their hulls. The first alien ship shuddered as the projectiles tore holes in its armor. Atmosphere vented from the wounds, creating white clouds in space. The ship tried to turn away, but more railgun rounds found their target. "We're hurting them," shouted Luke's weapons officer. But the aliens weren't helpless. Their energy weapons began firing back, sending bright beams toward the human ships. The UES Tiger took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire. "Tiger is gone," Luke reported grimly. "All ships, evasive pattern Delta." The human ships began moving in unpredictable patterns, making them harder to hit. Meanwhile, they kept firing their railguns at the alien vessels. It was like a pack of wolves attacking bears. The wolves were smaller and weaker, but they were faster and worked together. The first alien ship lost power and began drifting. The second ship tried to retreat, but Luke's squadron surrounded it and pounded it with railgun fire until it too went dark. The third alien ship managed to destroy 2 more human vessels before Luke's ship got close enough for a killing shot. The final railgun volley tore through the alien ship's engine section, and it exploded in a bright flash. "All alien ships destroyed," Luke reported to headquarters. His voice was tired, but proud. "Europa Station is safe." General Katie Adams received the news while she was in a meeting with Earth's leaders. For a moment, the room was completely quiet. Then everyone began talking at once. "We actually won a battle," said President Helen Davis, hardly believing it. "It's a start," Katie replied, "but we lost 3 ships to kill 3 of theirs. At that rate, we'll run out of ships before they do." "What do we need to do better?" the president asked. Katie had been thinking about this for weeks. "We need to be smarter. The aliens have better technology, but they've been winning easily for so long that they've gotten lazy. They don't adapt quickly to new threats." She pointed to a map showing all the human colonies. "We need to hit them where they don't expect it. Attack their supply lines, ambush their patrols, make them afraid to travel alone." Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Grace Kim was working on another piece of the puzzle. She had been studying captured alien communication equipment, trying to understand how their empire worked. "I've been listening to their radio traffic," she told Katie during a private meeting. "The aliens are getting worried. They've never lost ships to a species they considered primitive." "What are they saying about us?" Katie asked. They're calling us the stubborn insects and the metal throwers, Grace replied. But here's the interesting part. They're arguing among themselves about how to handle us. Katie leaned forward. Arguing how? Some want to send a massive fleet to wipe us out completely. Others think we're not worth the effort. They've never had to deal with a species that learns and adapts during a war. Katie smiled grimly. Good. Confusion is something we can use. Over the next few months, human tactics continued to evolve. Small squadrons of converted ships began attacking alien patrols throughout human space. They would strike fast, destroy what they could, and disappear before reinforcements arrived. The aliens started traveling in larger groups, which made them slower and easier to track. Human intelligence networks, led by officers like Grace Kim, began providing detailed information about alien movements. Commander Luke Thompson led many of these raids. His ship, the UES Hammer, became famous throughout the human colonies. He developed new tactics for each battle, always finding ways to use humanity's advantages against alien weaknesses. But the biggest change was happening to the humans themselves. The colonists who had once been farmers, miners, and scientists were becoming soldiers. They learned to repair weapons, build fortifications, and fight for their survival. Dr. Emma Foster, a psychologist studying the war's effects, noticed something remarkable. We're evolving, she told Katie during one of their regular meetings. Not just our technology, but ourselves. Humans are becoming harder, more focused, more unified. Katie nodded. She had seen it too. The scattered colonies that had barely worked together before the war were now sharing resources, information, and tactical knowledge. Earth itself had transformed into a massive war factory, building ships and weapons faster than ever before. The question is, Katie said, will it be enough when they send their main fleet? Grace Kim had bad news about that. Her intercepted communications suggested the aliens were preparing something big. The small defeats had made them angry, and anger was making them dangerous. They're calling it the final solution, Grace reported. A fleet large enough to sterilize every human world at once. Katie looked out at the stars through her office window. Somewhere out there, an alien armada was preparing to end humanity's reach for the stars. But humans had learned to fight back. They had weapons that could hurt the enemy, tactics that worked, and most importantly, they had each other. The next battle would decide everything. 1 year had passed since the first alien attack. Admiral Tony Garcia stood in the command center of the new battle station orbiting Mars. Through the large windows, he could see hundreds of human warships preparing for the biggest battle in history. Tony had been a cargo ship captain before the war. Now he commanded humanity's largest fleet. The ships around him looked nothing like the old exploration vessels. These were pure war machines, long, angular, and covered with railgun turrets and missile pods. Status report, Tony said to his staff. Colonel Janet Price, his tactical officer, looked up from her screens. 300 ships ready for battle, sir. The Ghost Squadron is in position for the first strike. Tony nodded. The Ghost Squadron was humanity's secret weapon. 20 small, fast ships designed to be invisible to alien sensors. They were commanded by Captain Rachel Stone, a pilot who had become famous for her hit-and-run attacks on alien supply convoys. What about the enemy fleet? Tony asked. Intelligence says they're coming with everything they have, Janet replied. Over 1,000 ships, including their biggest dreadnoughts. Tony felt his stomach tighten. Even with humanity's new weapons and tactics, those odds were terrible. But there was no choice. The aliens had made it clear this was their final attack. They would either destroy all human colonies or die trying. Sir, we're getting a message from New Terra, said the communications officer. General Marcus Webb is ready for the defense. Tony switched his screen to show New Terra, the first human colony where this war had started. The planet was now a fortress. Orbital defense platforms surrounded it like a metal ring, and the surface was covered with missile batteries and railgun emplacements. General Marcus Webb had been preparing for this battle for months. He was a veteran of Earth's worst wars and knew how to defend against impossible odds. The civilians are safely in the underground shelters, Marcus reported. All defense systems are online. We're ready for them. On the planet's surface, civilian leader Angela Brooks was making sure the evacuation centers had everything they needed. She had been mayor of New Terra's capital city before the war. Now she was responsible for keeping 50,000 people alive while hell raged above them. "How are the children?" she asked Dr. Carol White, who ran the medical center. "Scared, but holding up well," Carol replied. "We've been telling them stories about brave human heroes fighting monsters. It seems to help." Angela smiled sadly. Those weren't just stories anymore. Real human heroes were about to fight real monsters in space above their heads. The alien fleet arrived 3 days later. Tony Garcia watched from his command ship as the enemy vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. There were so many ships that they blocked out the stars behind them. "My God," whispered Colonel Price. "I've never seen so many ships in one place." High Commander Vextar's face appeared on the main screen. The alien leader looked older and more tired than before. The war had been hard on him too. "Humans," Vextar said, his voice full of cold anger. "You have proven more troublesome than expected, but today your species ends. We bring enough firepower to crack planets." "We're still here," Tony replied calmly, "and we're not running. Then you will burn," the alien commander snarled. The battle began when Captain Rachel Stone led her Ghost Squadron in their surprise attack. The 20 small ships had been hiding in the asteroid belt, invisible to alien sensors. They struck the rear of the alien formation, targeting the big command ships. Rachel's ship, the UES Shadow, was the first to attack. She fired a spread of new human torpedoes at an alien dreadnought. The torpedoes were filled with thousands of small metal balls that scattered like shotgun pellets when they hit. The alien ship's shields stopped the energy weapons it expected, but thousands of metal balls tore through the barrier and peppered the hull. The dreadnought's armor cracked and atmosphere began venting into space. "All ghost ships, hit them now while they're confused," Rachel ordered. The small human ships swarmed around the giant alien vessels like angry wasps. They were too fast and too small for the big alien guns to target effectively. Meanwhile, their weapons were perfectly designed to exploit the weakness in alien shield technology. But the aliens adapted faster than before. They began using their smaller escort ships to hunt the Ghost Squadron. Rachel watched as 3 of her ships were destroyed by alien fighters. "Ghost Leader, you need to get out of there," Admiral Garcia warned over the radio. "Not yet," Rachel replied. "We're doing too much damage." She was right. The surprise attack had destroyed 5 alien command ships and damaged a dozen more. But it came at a terrible cost. Only 8 ships from the Ghost Squadron managed to escape. The main battle began when the alien fleet reached Mars. Tony Garcia's defense fleet met them in the space between Mars and Jupiter. The 2 fleets crashed together like waves of metal and fire. The humans had learned to fight as a team. Their ships moved in coordinated groups, covering each other and focusing their fire on single targets. The aliens still fought like they always had, each ship on its own relying on superior technology. "Focus fire on that cruiser," Tony ordered his fleet. "All ships, target the engines." 50 human ships turned their railguns on one alien vessel. The coordinated attack overwhelmed the enemy ship's defenses and tore it apart, but the aliens responded by destroying 10 human ships with their energy weapons. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed or crippled. The space around Mars became filled with debris and the bodies of dead warriors. Dr. Emma Foster watched the battle from a hospital ship behind the main fleet. She was treating wounded soldiers and documenting how the war was changing humanity. What she saw amazed her. "These aren't the same people who left Earth," she told her assistant. "The war has made them into something new. They're not just fighting for survival anymore, they're fighting for the right to exist among the stars." The wounded soldiers she treated didn't complain about their injuries. They only wanted to know when they could return to battle. The war had turned ordinary humans into warriors who refused to give up. Meanwhile, the battle moved toward New Terra. The alien fleet had lost many ships, but they still outnumbered the humans. Tony Garcia's fleet fell back to the planet's orbital defenses. General Marcus Webb activated every weapon the planet had. Missiles launched from the surface like angry hornets. Orbital railgun platforms fired continuously at the approaching alien ships. The sky above New Terra became a wall of fire and metal. All defense stations, continuous fire, Marcus ordered. Don't let them land on the planet. The aliens tried a new tactic. Instead of fighting the human fleet directly, they sent waves of small attack ships toward the planet's surface. These ships were fast and hard to hit, but they carried powerful bombs designed to destroy the underground shelters. They're trying to kill the civilians, Angela Brooks reported from the planet. The children are terrified. Tony Garcia made a desperate decision. He ordered his remaining fleet to intercept the alien bombers, even though it meant leaving the orbital defenses without support. All ships, protect the planet, he commanded. Stop those bombers at any cost. The human ships dove toward New Terra's atmosphere, chasing the alien attack craft. Captain Nick Taylor, commanding the cruiser UES Vengeance, managed to destroy 5 alien bombers before his ship was hit by enemy fire. "This is Vengeance," Nick reported as his ship fell toward the planet. "We're going down, but we're taking some of them with us." Nick's ship crashed into a group of alien bombers, destroying them all in a massive explosion. It was the kind of sacrifice that had become common among human forces. The battle for New Terra lasted all day. When it finally ended, both fleets were badly damaged. The aliens had failed to destroy the human colony, but they still had more ships left than the humans did. High Commander Vextar appeared on the communication screen one more time. The alien leader was obviously frustrated and angry. "You fight like wild animals," he snarled at Tony Garcia. "No honor, no rules, just chaos and destruction." "We fight to survive," Tony replied. "Something your empire has forgotten how to do." For the first time in the war, the alien commander looked uncertain. His forces had expected an easy victory, but the humans had fought them to a standstill. The Confederacy's reputation for invincibility was broken. "This is not over," Vextar warned. "We will return with more ships." "We'll be waiting," Tony said simply. As the alien fleet retreated, humanity began counting the cost of their victory. Thousands of ships were destroyed, and hundreds of thousands of people were dead. But they had done the impossible. They had forced the mighty Confederacy to retreat. The war was far from over, but something had changed. The aliens no longer seemed like unstoppable gods. They were just another enemy that could be beaten with courage, intelligence, and sacrifice, and humans had plenty of all three. 2 years had passed since the aliens first told humans to flee. President Helen Davis sat in her office on Earth, reading reports from across human space. The war had changed everything, and now the impossible was happening. The aliens wanted to talk. "They're asking for a ceasefire," said Admiral Tony Garcia, who had traveled from Mars to deliver the message personally. High Commander Vextar himself sent the communication. Helen looked tired. The war had aged her greatly. She had been forced to make decisions that killed millions of people, all to keep humanity alive among the stars. "What exactly are they offering?" she asked. "A meeting at Proxima Station, the old trading post between our territories," Tony replied. "They want to discuss terms for ending the war." Helen was quiet for a long moment. Through her window, she could see the construction yards where new warships were being built. Earth had become a giant weapons factory, turning out ships and soldiers as fast as possible. "Do you think they're serious?" she asked. "I think they're scared," Tony said. "We've cost them more ships in 2 years than they've lost in the past century. Their empire is starting to question why they're fighting a war they can't seem to win." 3 weeks later, the meeting took place aboard Proxima Station. The old trading post had been neutral territory before the war, and both sides agreed it was the safest place to talk. Captain Jake Martinez, who had started this whole conflict by refusing to leave New Terra, was part of the human delegation. He sat across from High Commander Vexatar in the station's main conference room. The alien leader looked very different than he had 2 years ago. His gray skin was scarred from battle wounds, and his 4 eyes seemed tired and defeated. The proud warrior who had once demanded human surrender now looked like someone who just wanted the killing to stop. "You have surprised us," Vextar admitted, speaking in careful human language. "We thought you were just another primitive species that would flee or die quickly." "We tried to tell you we wouldn't run," Jake replied. "You chose not to listen. The Confederacy has ruled this part of space for 3,000 years," the alien commander continued. "We have conquered hundreds of worlds and absorbed dozens of species. None of them ever fought back the way you have." President Helen Davis leaned forward. "What are you proposing?" "A division of territory," Vextar said slowly, as if the words were painful to speak. "You keep the worlds you have already claimed. We will not attack them again. In return, you agree not to expand beyond those boundaries." "And if we refuse?" Helen asked. The alien commander's expression grew darker. "Then we continue fighting, until one of our species is extinct. But I warn you, the Confederacy Council is divided. Some want to make peace with you. Others want to send our entire fleet to burn every human world to ash." Jake Martinez had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "Why should we trust you? You told us to flee, and when we refused, you tried to commit genocide." "Because," Vextar said, "you have taught us something we had forgotten. War has a cost. Every ship you destroy, every soldier you kill, weakens the Confederacy's ability to control other threats in the galaxy. There are enemies out there much worse than humans." The negotiations continued for days. Grace Kim, the intelligence officer, who had learned to understand alien communications, served as translator when the talks became complex. "They're not lying," she told the human delegation during a private meeting. "Their empire really is having problems. Other species are seeing that the Confederacy can be beaten, and some are starting to rebel." "So we're not the only ones who refuse to stay conquered?" Jake asked. "No," Grace replied. "But we're the first ones to actually hurt them badly enough to force negotiations." During the talks, Dr. Emma Foster continued her work studying how the war had changed humanity. She interviewed soldiers, civilians, and leaders, documenting the transformation of their species. "We're not the same people who first reached for the stars," she told Jake during one of their conversations. "The war has made us harder, more unified, more focused on survival." "Is that good or bad?" Jake asked. Emma thought carefully before answering. "Both. We've lost our innocence, but we've gained something else, the knowledge that we can survive anything the universe throws at us." Back on New Terra, General Marcus Webb was overseeing the reconstruction of the colony. The planet bore scars. From the final battle, craters where alien bombs had fallen, the wreckage of crashed ships, and memorials to the thousands who had died defending their home. Angela Brooks, still serving as civilian leader, walked through the rebuilt capital city with him. Children played in the parks again, but their games had changed. Instead of pretending to be explorers and scientists, they pretended to be space marines and ship captains. "Are we raising a generation of warriors?" Angela asked Marcus. "Maybe," the general replied. "But that might be what humanity needs now. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and we can't pretend it isn't anymore." The peace talks finally reached an agreement after 2 weeks of negotiations. The humans would keep all the worlds they had colonized before the war began. The Confederacy would withdraw from human space and recognize humanity as an independent power. But the cost of this recognition was enormous. The war had killed millions of people on both sides. Entire human colonies had been reduced to radioactive wasteland. The Confederacy had lost hundreds of ships and thousands of experienced officers. "We pay a heavy price for the right to exist among the stars," President Davis said during the signing ceremony. High Commander Vextar nodded slowly. "All species do, eventually. The question is whether the price is worth paying." Jake Martinez thought about that question as he watched the alien fleet depart from Proxima Station. Was it worth it? Millions dead, countless resources spent on weapons instead of exploration, and humanity forever changed from peaceful explorers into hardened warriors? But as he looked at the stars through the station's windows, he knew the answer. Humanity belonged out here among the endless lights of space. They had earned their place through blood and sacrifice, and no one could take it away from them again. The war officially ended with a ceremony on Earth, Admiral Tony Garcia stood before a crowd of millions, reading the peace treaty aloud. But everyone knew this was just a pause, not a true ending. "We have won the right to exist in this galaxy," Tony told the crowd. "But we must never forget the cost of that victory, or let our guard down again." Dr. Emma Foster published her final report on the war's effects on humanity. Her conclusions were both disturbing and hopeful. "The war has accelerated human evolution," she wrote, "not just technologically, but socially and psychologically. We have become a more unified species, focused on survival and expansion. Whether this makes us better or worse than we were before, only time will tell." Engineer Carl Hayes, working with teams on Mars, had been combining human and alien technology throughout the war. Now, with access to more alien equipment, he was designing a new generation of human ships. "These vessels will be faster and stronger than anything we've built before," he told the design committee. "We're not just copying alien technology, we're improving on it." Psychologist Linda Scott had been studying the veterans returning from the war. Many of them struggled with the things they had seen and done, but they all shared one common trait: an unshakable belief that humanity deserved its place among the stars. "They know we can survive anything now," she reported to the government. "The war was horrible, but it proved that humans don't give up, even when facing impossible odds." 5 years after the peace treaty was signed, Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of a new exploration ship, the UES Pioneer. His mission was to explore beyond the boundaries set by the peace agreement, to find new worlds for humanity to claim. "Sir, we're approaching the edge of Confederacy space," reported his navigation officer. Jake looked at the stars ahead of them. Somewhere out there were new worlds, new challenges, and possibly new enemies. But humanity was ready for whatever they might find. The Confederacy's first warning to humanity had been simple: flee. But humanity had answered with something even simpler: no. And that refusal had changed everything. The galaxy had learned that humans could not be conquered, could not be intimidated, and would not be driven from the stars they had claimed as their birthright. In schools across human space, children learned about the war and its heroes. They learned about Admiral Garcia's desperate space battles, Captain Stone's sacrifice with the Ghost Squadron, and General Webb's defense of New Terra. But most importantly, they learned that when the galaxy told humanity to flee, their answer would always be the same: they would choose to fight.